Hi, welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I'm Steve Smith. Today we're going to talk a little bit about guns. I think I'm going to entitle this Guns for Beginners, and it might be more than one video. We'll just kind of see. I get a lot of questions about guns, acquiring guns by those who don't have them, who don't know much about them, carrying guns, what kind of guns, things like that. So we're going to start addressing that today. First off, it's a rainy day here in northeast Kansas, good for the upcoming garden season, but it's keeping the kids in the house until they go out later and splash and get muddy. But so if you hear some noises around here, it's because the kids are inside, and either ignore it or enjoy it. Some time ago, I had a young guy come up to me. He'd overheard me talking to some other guys about guns and carrying, and he waited for me to leave the group, and he came up to me and he kind of hesitantly asked me if I thought he should carry a gun. And I said, yes, I think everyone should carry a gun. And he asked me, well, how much does your gun weigh? And I said, I don't know. I don't have any idea. I don't weigh my guns. He said, well, does it weigh 2 pounds or 5 pounds? I said, I have no idea. He says, well, it seems kind of heavy to carry it. And I said, well, I don't know. I've carried a gun for 44 years, and you get used to it. And I choose my guns according to what I feel is effective and what I want, not that it weighs 2 or 3 ounces less than another gun. You just get used to it. And he seemed very troubled, and he kept shaking his head, and he said, well, he says, I don't want to have to carry a gun every day for 44 years. Yeah, I didn't know where this kid was coming from. He's a big kid, 6'4", 225, looked like he just got out of the weight room. So I said, well, I can see here that you have some things to get through in your mind before you really start consider carrying a gun. So that made me, and I've run into other people with questions like that, and I see that there's, first off, a large mental hurdle that people have to get past before they really start thinking about it. Now this, and I might address that mental hurdle. I guess I will. I'll start with that, and then we'll get into a little bit more. First off, should you carry a gun? Yes. If you're not, well, I won't put it that way. If you are a person of reasonable intelligence, of reasonable mental capacity, and not a psycho, if you are a responsible person, you should carry a gun. And the world will be better off if you do. Okay? You will be safer, you will be able to protect yourself, and the world around you could be a safer place if you are armed. And the FBI statistics bear that out. If you'll just look up, and the media always likes to come out with the stories about an accidental shooting happened, and if people just weren't carrying guns, blah blah blah. Well, I assume that if you go along with that, you're not watching this channel anyway. But if you're interested, look up, and I don't know the figures, I don't care, but look up the figures of how many times a citizen uses a gun. And that doesn't necessarily mean shooting it, just sometimes the drawing of the weapon and the presenting of the weapon is enough to stop a crime, either against them or against someone else. Look it up, and it's large numbers, I know that. I'm not a numbers guy because I don't care. So if you carry a gun, you're going to be more able to defend yourself, and you're going to be able to assist others if the situation presents itself. So it's really a question of responsibility. And this gets back to prepping. That prepping and carrying a firearm is about responsibility, taking responsibility for your own life and your own safety. You know, when I was on the job, and if you haven't watched any other of my videos yet, if this is the first one, I was a cop for a long time. And we had a saying that when minutes or when seconds count, the cops are only minutes away. You know, and that's the truth. And I always told people that cops are never, well, rarely going to be there to stop something happening, a crime in progress. And it doesn't mean that we don't want to. Most of us tried our best. We were always looking for something going on so we could get in there and get in the middle of it and do what we wanted to do about it. But the fact of the matter is that rarely happens. If a cop rolls up on the middle of something happening, it's pure luck of the draw. It's because he either stayed at the station 5 more minutes to talk to a sergeant or a buddy or a secretary, or got caught at a red light or didn't, or stopped for a donut or didn't. It's just the luck of the draw. And in the years that I was on the street and on the road, I rolled up in the middle of, I could count them on, less than 2 hands in the middle of something to where I was able to actually stop it or at least interject myself into it. And I worked a very active, we call very active, which means a lot of crime going on, district. And usually the law enforcement, what happens is they show up in time to see the mess, try to clean up the mess, try to find out who made it, and that doesn't help the victim. I don't care, how many years the guy gets in the pen. That doesn't help the victim. When maybe they could have helped themselves if they had just been carrying a gun and had the skills to be able to use it. So we're going to get a little bit beyond that here. So yes, you should carry a gun. When should you carry a gun? You should carry a gun all the time and everywhere. Now, a lot of people are resistant to that. Well, it just seems like a lot of trouble. I have a gun, I keep it at home, or even I keep it in my car or something like that. But I just don't want to carry a gun all the time. Okay, well, if you can tell me when you're going to need it, then that would make sense, right? You tell me when I'm going to need a gun, and I'll only carry a gun then. But that's not the way the world is. You don't know what's going to happen. As I said in a couple of my other videos, attacks happen quickly. They happen when you're not expecting it. They don't wait. It's not going to say, okay, well, I'm going to wear my gun today, so this is the time that I think that I'm going to need to protect myself. You don't know that. If you only carry occasionally, what are you saying? You're saying that there are times in your life to where you or your loved ones or those who depend on you are not worth protecting. Now, is that really what you mean? No. I'm sure that's not what you mean, but that's what that statement means if you don't carry all the time. So, first off, carry. Okay. Carry all the time. It's going to seem, if you're not used to carrying a gun, it's going to seem strange. Okay? You're going to feel self-conscious. You're going to think that everybody in the world knows that you're carrying a gun. The truth of the matter is nobody knows, nobody cares, nobody pays attention. I've carried a gun, like I said, I started carrying a gun 44 years ago. I've carried a lot of different kinds of guns in a variety of ways. When I got out of the police academy in 1974, a lot of us just carried our issue weapons, which at the time was an old Smith & Wesson Model 10-38 revolver, which to any of you older guys, you'll chuckle, and if you remember those, that was quite a different time, wasn't it? But a lot of us, we just carried those. We carried them on duty, and then when we got off duty, and we were required to carry off duty. Not that we wouldn't have anyway, but it was a requirement in the department. A lot of times we just carried our issue weapons off duty, and some of us just stuck them in our pants and our belts, and others had holsters, and it was not a big deal. There wasn't this the gun culture back then wasn't the same as now. There weren't, except outside certain police and military and hunters, people didn't. There weren't people outside of those professions that were all into guns. We viewed them as tools. We didn't, for the most part, make a lot of modifications. We knew that we pointed it at the bad guy and pulled the trigger, and it went bang, and then it had done its job. So we weren't all into things like they are today. When I went undercover years later, I carried several guns at the same time. I carried a Colt Combat Commander, which is a 45 auto, which is a big gun. I carried that over on my left side. I carried an FN high power 9mm. That's also a large gun. I carried that on the other side, just stuck in my pants. I carried a 38 snub nose in my right boot and a knife in my left boot. No holsters. And the reason we did that is because the only people that wore holsters back then, because concealed carry was not, I think there was only a couple states that had concealed carry, and where I was not one of them. But if you wore a holster, it'd make you as a cop, so you just stuck your guns in your belts and went from there. And that'll make a lot of people nowadays cringe. Oh God, you're carrying a 45, a high power, and a snub in your boot, and no holsters. No holsters. And in years that I spent undercover, I never had an AD, an accidental discharge. I never lost a gun. Never had one fall out. Never had one taken away. Okay, so I'm not saying don't have a holster. It's a good idea to have a holster. I'm just kind of, introducing an interesting aspect of the gun culture and how it's developed. I wear a holster now. I don't wear a high-speed holster like a lot of people, and I'll explain that probably maybe in another video. But yes, you carry, and you carry all the time. And if you're not used to having a gun, then the first thing you do and if you have a friend who's military or police or is just a good shooter, you might go to them and ask some advice, maybe shoot some of theirs, see what's right. I don't say find the gun that's perfect for you. I know that there's another school of thought that says, well, get the gun that you will carry, because if it's too big or if it's whatever, then you're not going to carry it. Well, okay, I won't say that that's wrong, but I will give a different opinion, and that is, you should carry a gun that's effective. Okay, and that means a large enough caliber. That means a high enough capacity, and then you learn to use it, and then you learn to carry it. If you carry a weapon that's not effective, it doesn't matter if you carry it all the time. If it's not effective, it's not going to be effective when you need it. So I come at it the other way. You carry a gun, and I'll show you what I suggest in just a minute. And then you make yourself carry it, you learn to carry it, and you become used to carrying it, and then you'll carry it. It's not going to be a big deal. Women are a little bit different. Women, carry in different ways, and their clothing fits differently, and I'm not an expert on that, but we'll get into that probably in a different, I think I'll make a second one on how to carry. Okay, so getting back to this. If you have a friend of yours who is knowledgeable about guns, and I don't just mean a guy who has a bunch of guns hanging around, I mean a guy who is knowledgeable about handling guns, get with them and pick up some pointers, and then go buy a gun, and usually most places that sell guns, most gun shops, will either have a place or have a relationship with an instructor or a school that offers basic pistol, and when I say pistol, I incorporate all things back in my day, because I know nowadays, if you call a revolver a pistol, you'll get some internet, ninja jumping all over you. Go, that's not a pistol, that's a revolver. Well, okay, we called every handgun a pistol, and if you really want to get technical about it, the old pistoleros did not carry 1911s, right? Pistol comes from, I forget what, but it's a French word which means a weapon that's designed to be held and fired with one hand. So a handgun is a pistol. But nowadays they'll say, well, a pistol is an auto loader, which we called automatics in the old days, and a revolver is a revolver. I don't care, whatever. But any place that sells guns will either have a place or an instructor of their own, or a relationship with someone who teaches basic pistol handling, handgun handling, and can take you through a concealed carry class, and probably has several layers above that. The good ones do. They always have several layers above that. That you can become comfortable handling and firing your weapon. And that's important. Now, the more that you fire it, the more that you deal with it, the more that you handle it, the more comfortable you're going to be with it. And then it's not going to seem like a strange thing that you're hanging around, and it becomes a part of you. And it takes a while, but it does become a part of you, and then you forget that it's there. Now, I will show, when people ask me, I'm going to show a handgun that I suggest to newer people. And if you don't like it, that's fine. I'm giving you my opinion. Other people have other opinions, and that's fine. I'm giving you mine from my experience. The first pistol that I usually, and when people ask me, what should I get for defense, I say two things: a handgun and a shotgun. Okay, a shotgun is the best you can get for home defense, but you can't carry it around with you, so you want a handgun that you can carry with you. Now, one thing that I suggest is the weapon that I suggest is a Smith & Wesson SD40VE. Now, what that's kind of complicated, and I should stop right now. Right now, for any YouTube ninja who is on there about to leave a comment about, you didn't show a safety check, let me save you the trouble and address that right now. Okay. Number one, I'm in my home. Okay. I know where everybody is, and I know where this weapon is pointing. I don't unload my weapons at my home, because when you have an unloaded weapon, you have a hammer. I already have plenty of hammers. If I need a hammer, I'll go get one. But if I need this gun, I need it loaded. Okay, and so I do not unload weapons except to clean them, or if I'm on a range that requires it. Secondly, I don't have to show anybody or explain to anybody that my gun is safe. Okay. Well, it's. I think I heard Yeager say this one time. I'm not sure. He says, "Well, heck no, it's not safe. I don't want my gun to be safe." That's true. It's loaded in case it needs to be used. Okay. So I don't have to explain to anybody, and I don't have to show anybody that my gun is safe and clear unless I am on a range and the range master requires it. Okay. Thirdly, if you think that there's a danger that this gun could go off and that the bullet can come through my camera and across all the internet and turn itself into a little ones and zeros and then come out of your phone or whatever you're watching on and hit you, you have other issues to deal with, so go deal with those. Okay. All right. But that is a good issue. One of the most important things to learn is safe gun handling. So do that, and find somebody that can teach you. This is a Smith & Wesson SD40VE, And that sounds complicated. It's not. It simply means SD, self-defense. 40 is a 40 caliber. Um, VE means value enhanced. It's their low-end pistol. It's they tell me it's a Glock clone. I've never had a Glock. I'm not against Glocks. I just think that they're overpriced. And when Glocks started hitting the market years ago, I already had plenty. I didn't need another gun. I never bought one. I know that and well, I won't get into other reasons. But there's people who have had both tells me that this is right up there, every bit as good, and they like it as much as a Glock. I like it because it's $299, which is $200 or $300 less than a Glock. And you know what that $200 or $300 lets you do that you've saved? It lets you buy a shotgun. Right? You can buy these at Academy of Sports all day long for $299. And I think when they're on sale, they go down to $269 or $279, and that gives you a couple $100 to be right there at Academy and buy yourself a Mossberg shotgun for $200, and now you've got both. Okay. I am a proponent of the 40 caliber. I am not a proponent of the 9mm. Now, I carried a 9mm when I was undercover, but back then, because it was an FN high power. And it carried, I don't know, 9 million rounds or something. I don't know, 17 or 18. Back then, that was unbelievable to those of us who were used to the old 6-shooters, right? And Frank Serpico, an undercover in New York, became famous when somebody wrote a book about him, and then they made a movie about him with Al Pacino, and they made a big point that he carried an FN high power. I believe that's what either or a Browning, one of them, same thing. And so, I figured I carried a 45. If I ran out of 8, if I ran dry, well, nobody thought much of the 9mm as a cartridge, but at least I'd have a whole bunch to shoot at, right? And we used to say that if they hadn't made a movie about Frank Serpico, and NATO hadn't made the 9mm there around, nobody would carry a 9mm. Okay. I still don't like 9mm. I know that there's going to be people jumping up and down right now, what are you talking about, And then they'll say, the cartridges have improved so much. The expansion of the hollow points and all that, they've improved so much. And the 9mm is much easier to handle than a 40. Well, first off, it's not. I disagree with that entirely. It's got a little bit more to it, but not anything that should bother you. My wife shoots a great. Matter of fact, my wife loves my 45 more than the others, but she shoots this 40 and her 40 great. My son started shooting this one when he was 10 and did very well. So I have fairly large hands. My wife has smaller hands. My son has probably in between hands, and we all do just fine on this gun. And this is a time that I'll interject something else. Rather than go out there and try to find the perfect fit for your hand, and I know that there are people that will say that, find the gun that fits you. You fit your hand to the gun. Find an effective weapon. And if you like something different than this, that's fine. I'm just showing you this because I love it. I suggest it to newer people who don't want to spend a lot of money. And everybody's hand can fit it and shoot it very well. It's got a pretty long and strong trigger. It doesn't have a feather trigger, so a beginner doesn't have to worry about touching that, something going off if they don't mean it to. It's more like a revolver trigger, which is good. Learn to use that. So anyway, back to the 9. I'm not a proponent of the 9 because there's an old saying also that, small bullets may get bigger, but bigger bullets will never get smaller. And I want the biggest thing smacking into whatever I want to shoot at that I can get. Now, this isn't as big as a 45, and I love my 45. Occasionally I will carry a 1911, but I'm restricted to about 8 rounds on that. And and this one will carry 14, and then one of the pipe gives me 15 total. And although I've never used more than 7, and they say that the average self-defense situation is what, 3 shots within 3 seconds. I'm not sure what that is. There's other YouTube channels that can tell you all about that. This does plenty. The 40 caliber does plenty. And for people who, and I have people tell me, well, yeah, but in gelatin tests, the 9mm is great and this and that and there. Well, I'm never, and you're never going to shoot at somebody made of gelatin, and so that's a non-issue. The real test of this is with a meat target, and I would suggest, and I'll ask my guru there to put down in the links below, Paul Harrell, who is an excellent instructor, and he's got a lot of videos, and I suggest if you're interested in guns, watch him. There's a lot of guys to watch. There's a lot of good guys out there to watch, and there's a lot of ones that I wouldn't. But Paul Harrell is a very serious guy. He knows what he's talking about, and I'm going to have my guru put down there a test that he does on a meat target between the 9 and the 40. And that's why I'm a proponent of the 40. You only give up a couple of rounds. I think in this model, the 9mm carries 16 and this carries 14, and I don't see that making a big difference. If you get up there and you're running dry on 14, your problem is larger than most people's, and just slam another magazine in it. Okay, so that's the gist of this this video. Yes, you should carry a gun. You should carry the gun all the time. You should learn how to handle it. You should become comfortable with it. And then your life is going to be safer, as are the lives around you. So next time I'm going to get into a little bit more. I know this is going to run kind of long. I'm going to get more into perhaps how to carry it and different things like that, different things to think about when you're starting to carry a gun. So with that, hope your day isn't as rainy as mine, but we're going to get out there and try to do some things anyway. So you have a good day, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.